Good evening. I'd like to call to order a meeting, I'd like to reconvene the meeting of Community Unit School District 300 Board of Education on this evening, Tuesday, February 28th, 2017. Mr. Alessio, please call the roll.
Alessio, present. Burley. Present. Fiorentino.
Present.
Garcia.
Present.
Lopez.
Present.
Miller.
Present.
Stevens. Present.
Okay, thank you. And before I turn it over to Mr. Hyde to introduce our pledge leaders, I want to let parents know, please feel free to roam around the room to take pictures. You're welcome anywhere. And just don't block another person. When we do our handshaking, you know, this is that time of year when there's a lot of different things going around. So if a board member bumps or does not shake hands, please don't take offense to it. It just means that we're trying to keep our germs to ourselves. I also want to say that I do see a Boy Scout here in our room. And is this the young man who's here for his merit badge attendance? Is this just one, or do we have any others that are here as well? Okay, if you want to raise your hands, because at some point, I know you don't need to stay for the whole meeting, but at some point we'll have you come up as well, probably.
Is it the same troop?
And
Which troop?
Which troop is it? Okay, so I'm an Eagle Mom from 151, just to let you know, so totally get it. But we will also have you recognize that you guys are actually here. And if you need us to sign anything, we will. So, Mr. Hyde.
Yes, ma'am. Madam President, members of the board, members of the community and staff, thank you for being here this evening. At this time, I'd like to introduce Ms. Lindsay Sharp, principal from Gulfview Elementary School, who will introduce her students to us, and they will lead us in our pledge. Although I also believe they have some special surprises for us along the way.
I like surprises.
These are not Gulfview Elementary.
Could somebody quite possibly open a window or a door? It's kind of warm in here. Am I the only one?
Roberto, turn.
I'm the only one that's warm?
It's down.
It's okay.
No, it's a little stuffy.
I could use at least some air. I don't see Gary.
Roberto said it's down. He turned it down.
So good evening, board members, Superintendent Hyde, and the D300 community. I'm excited to be here tonight to share with you two fantastic programs we've started at Gulfview this year. So you see, we definitely have two men that are not Gulfview students with us. They are with Men of Distinction, which is a feeder pattern collaboration and mentorship between Dundee Crown and Gulfview Elementary. So they met with their fifth grade mentees today and had lunch and went over some things. We also have with you beautiful young ladies here, and they are part of our Golden Girls, which is an enrichment opportunity. And we have two young ladies who will share a little bit about that this evening before we say the pledge. The message will be both in English and Spanish to celebrate our dual language and the biliteracy occurring at Gulfview this year. So I'd like to bring up Noel Cortez and Jonathan Mejica, as they will tell you a little bit about Men of Distinction.
Good afternoon. So my name is Noel Cortez, like she said, and Men of Distinction has been a program that was brought to us at our own high school to begin with. So we did have a training session for leadership the first semester, and then after that we actually became mentors for the Gulfview kids. So I think it's personally been a great experience for myself, and not only myself but for the kids. So in myself, I can see that I've spent the time very well. We've been getting to meet our mentees, and we do see a good reaction with them. We see that they do take it very positively. We interact with them, and it's not necessarily something that they get every day from a teacher or an authority figure where it's do this, you do that. It's just building an organic relationship with a younger person that gives them a role model to look up to. So I think it's been very beneficial to not only them, but to myself and to Jonathan. I don't know if you want to add anything, John?
I just wanted to say that it's really nice working with Principal Sharp. She so obviously cares about her students, and she just wants them to grow up well.
Okay, and for our ladies this evening, I've got Litzy with us, and I also have Diana.
Golden Girls is a group of 5th grade girls at Gulfview Elementary School. Las Chicas de Oro es un grupo de chicas de 5º grado de Gulfview. We focus on self-awareness, such as our emotions, feelings, hobbies, and passions. Nos enfocamos en conocer nuestras emociones, sentimientos, hobbies, y pasiones. We also learn to help others by giving compliments and helping the community. También aprendemos a ayudar a los demás diciendo cosas buenas y ayudando a la comunidad. Golden Girls is a place for me.
And I also need to make sure that I announce and introduce Ms. Carlos, our assistant principal. She's standing behind me. And we have our 2 Golden Girls sponsored, Ms. Consiglio, a 5th grade teacher, and Ms. Hendrickson, one of our literacy interventionists, that are also here.
And the other girls that are here are, we had Litzy Picado, Daisy Sandoval, Kimberly Vallejo, Jocelyn Saavedra, Georgina Reyes, Natalie Martinez, Vivian Quinn, Betsabel Sandoval, and Leslie Figueroa.
Please rise for the pledge.
Okay. I had no changes to the agenda. Anyone else have changes other than under staff recognition, if we can just call up our Boy Scouts that are here?
Madam President, you had indicated a possible interest in pulling an item for discussion. Do you want to pursue that at this time through a?
Well, no, you answered my question on
Yes,
that.
ma'am.
And as long as you're comfortable with that, then I'm okay with that.
Yes, ma'am.
And so everybody doesn't think that we're talking code here. I had a question on a policy. We're approving board policies today, and I had a question on it that I had asked Mr. Hyde on previously, wanting to make sure I understood it. I did. He answered, I don't have a need to pull it off of consent. And we will be having our second closed session. So with that, with no action to follow, correct? Okay, a motion to approve the agenda. Second?
Garcia. Aye. Burley. Aye. Alessio, aye. Fiorentino.
Aye.
Lopez. Miller.
Aye.
Stevens. Aye. Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. Any board announcements? Great. Student staff recognition, Mr. Hyde.
Ma'am, good evening once again, Madam President, members of the board, members of the community, staff, and students. Thank you for being here this evening. It is my pleasure to begin this evening with an introduction of Miss Carrie Curry, our district spelling bee coordinator. She is a 6th grade teacher at Westfield Community School, and she is here this evening to recognize our winners.
And again, parents, feel free to roam around to get pictures.
And then you guys face the audience.
That way.
When I call your name, just raise your hand, okay? And then spell it. No, that's your job. Oh, no. Yeah. No cheat sheets. Superintendent Hyde, President Miller, members of the school board, family, and friends. On Thursday, February 9th, 90 middle schoolers descended on Jacobs High School to battle it out spelling style for the annual middle school district spelling bee. They competed by grade levels and then had a lunch of pizza and pop before returning to their respective schools to complete their day. The winners are as follows. In 6th grade, our second place winner is Martin Bautista from Hampshire Middle School. Our first place winner was unable to be here this evening. In 7th, and our first place winner represented Dundee Middle School. In 7th grade, second place is Nikki Janis from Hampshire Middle School. In first place, and sporting some awesome spelling bee swag, I was loving the shirts, Nikki Stotts, Algonquin Middle School. Our 8th grade winners were unable to be here tonight, but second place came from Westfield and first place came from Dundee Middle School. We are also fortunate enough to have 5 students who have represented us at the Kane County Regional Spelling Bee, which is a precursor for the National Scripps Spelling Bee. They are Angelique Flores from Algonquin Middle School, our CMS winner and our Westfield winner weren't able to be here, but the next 2 students that I'm going to announce have advanced to the semifinals on March 15, 2017. One of them could be the winner who will advance to the National Scripps Spelling Bee in May. Representing Dundee Middle School, Alexander Schwang. Raise your hand. There you go. And representing Hampshire Middle School, Nathan Weber. And just on a side note, at the Kane County Bee, that was one heck of a spelling bee. It took almost 2.5 hours to determine the winners.
Wow.
I would like to thank the following 4 women who are the building coordinators in their respective buildings and help to ensure the district spelling bee is a wonderful day for the students. Jamie Vodvarka from Algonquin Middle School is here with us. Laura Sabrowski from Carpentersville Middle School, Amanda Hurley from Dundee Middle School, Heather Piccolotti from Hampshire Middle School, and I also represent Westfield. A huge thank you to the middle school administrators who come out and help with the judging panel that day. I know the kids enjoy having them there, and they look like they have just as much fun as we do. Thank you also to Amy McCrindle and her assistant Diane Stearns. They do a lot of the behind-the-scenes work to ensure that items are ordered and things are ready for the students. It was a lot of fun working with these 2 women, and I look forward to it again next year. Watch your calendars for next year's bee and come on out and join us for a fun day. We may even allow you to spell a word or 7 if you'd like. Thank you.
Madam President, moving on, under student and staff recognition, we do have an educator spotlight this evening. Tonight, I do have the privilege of introducing Mr. Ed Higgins as the next teacher in District 300's Educator Spotlight Series. The goal of the Educator Spotlight Series is to seek out innovative educators who go above and beyond the call of duty to educate our students, to inspire them, and to empower them with the tools they need to be successful in the classroom or flourish in the workplace. Mr. Higgins is a math teacher at Hampshire High School. Well, we are joined this evening by one of our recent retirees, Mr. Bombalis, who credits having stolen Mr. Higgins or recruited him away from another school to go to Hampshire High School. His skills, values, contributions, and character make him an indispensable asset to our school, our district, and our community. In District 300, we continually strive to ensure each student is college or career ready upon graduation, and the work that Ed accomplishes inside his classroom on a daily basis furthers that mission. On behalf of District 300, I'm proud to present the next video in our Educator Spotlight series. And a special note, he is joined this evening by a special guest, so I'm looking forward to meeting her at the end of your presentation. And I'll say her name and everything when we're done.
Hello, my name is Ed Higgins. I'm a math teacher at Hampshire High School, and I've been doing it for 20 years. The biggest problems I was facing in my class, the collaboration during group work time. You put them in groups and students would work as individuals, and as much as you try to prod them and get them to work with each other and talk with each other, maybe for a little while they would do that, but then they'd always seem to revert back to working by themselves independently. It wasn't until a couple years ago that our AVID program presented to the teachers here at Hampshire High School on a thing called tutorials. And basically a tutorial is when a group of students are together and one has a board. They're talking about certain problems and the communication and the engagement, and it looked like they were having fun. It had all the components of things I was looking for to try to encompass or try to include into my classroom. Basically, my version of a tutorial is the students are together at a whiteboard, and one student's at the board. Either they are working on a review problem where the other students are working at their desks, and they're being able to analyze and look back and forth, making sure that they have the right answers. And then from there, they want to check with me so I can check for understanding and make sure that they're getting things right. When the first day I started doing this, I'd never seen so much communication going on with students. This is probably one of the best ways I've ever experienced, being able to see what students are doing and where the mistakes are coming from. So many good things have come from just this simple concept. It may be an example of where students are leading an instruction. I might have taught different little groups how to do a certain math concept, how to teach a lesson on something. And as I teach them one component, they go back and they are to instruct their small group mates in terms of what they were taught from me. So there's a lot of instruction from there. If a student is sick or absent, these are great because now they can actually become a teacher themselves and start teaching what they learned the day before to the student that was not here. And the kids are pretty good at actually teaching each other and explaining to each other. So maybe there's something that might have been lost within the lecture, but the next day when we do the review, when I listen to these kids, they do a great job of being able to reteach to each other somebody didn't get the lesson. I really feel that to get ready for the real world, the business world, they're looking for the team component, the tools that they're learning now in terms of how to collaborate and communicate. And the things that they're learning in the classroom now, how a team should work, is going to carry over and help them as lifelong learners, especially in college. I think that the strategy has really improved what I want immensely, but I don't think that you're ever done learning as a teacher, and I think that things can always be improved upon. I'm always keep learning and keep looking for new ways people do things, talk to different teachers, because I think that's the key to the whole thing, is learning from each other and trying new things out. Some things work, some things don't, but you learn from it, you include it, you throw it out, but I think that you're never done learning, and you're never going to reach 100% of really what you want, but this is really taken a huge step forward in terms of what I see and what I've always wanted in my classroom.
So as a side note, because he's going to be joined when he comes up here to shake everyone's hands, once again, congratulations, great job. You truly represent everything that we aspire to do in our classrooms each day. But he is clearly joined by his biggest fan, His daughter Mia is an elementary student. She is a kindergarten student at Liberty Elementary School. She is in Miss Penny's class, and today they focused on weather, but she insisted. There's a special note on my presentation that's highlighted that says that she wanted to be present when her dad came up to shake everyone's hands. So she's very proud of Dad, as are we. So thank you. Let's give him one more round of applause.
You're welcome.
I love that idea.
Madam President, members of the board, members of the community, we are moving on to the superintendent's report, and tonight we will open with our Blue Ribbon Society recognition. The Blue Ribbon Society acknowledges individuals who demonstrate the admirable qualities while striving to achieve District 300's central mission, the mission to ensure that all students are college and career ready upon graduation. It's my pleasure to present tonight's Blue Ribbon Society Award to the Algonquin Argonauts, and several of their students will be joining us. The Argonauts are part of the Pop Warner Youth Football League. Each year, the most academically accomplished Pop Warner students compete for academic All-American status. This process begins at the association level and up through each of the 8 Pop Warner regions to the national level. The Pop Warner All-American program requires a minimum of a 96% GPA, a list of volunteer hours within their community, and extracurricular activities outside of the sports that they're playing in order to apply. After applications have been processed, Pop Warner determines national first-team All-Americans, national second-team All-Americans, and national honorable mention scholars. National scholars can receive a scholarship award of up to $1,000. At this time, I'd like to ask Argonauts coach Jose Capistran to please step up to the podium to introduce tonight's Blue Ribbon Society recipients, the Algonquin Argonauts All-Americans.
All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. So we are very proud of these boys and Emily today for being here. Their hard work and dedication to the sport of football and cheer, and obviously their academics is what we strive for in our program. So we're, ecstatic to be here and have the board recognize these boys and girls for what they do. We'll start here with this guy right here, Luke Goldberg. Where are you going, Luke? Just wave.
Just wave.
Ethan Guzman. That next guy is not supposed to be there, but he got by us, so we're going to skip him and go to the next. Caden Monty. Luke Lindemann. Jalen McGill. Mason Morowski. Cameron Collins. There's 2 of those. There's a twin all the way back at the end, so I'll make sure that we separated them. Logan Stotler. Aiden Didier. Emily Seibert. Mr. Porter. Leith Porter. We got Will Seibert. Will Sanchez. And finally, Tristan Collins. Remember what I said?
Okay, wait. I'm happy to see you here. Well done.
Congratulations. How are you, sir?
Way to go.
You on the list, too? All right.
Thank you. Congratulations. Good job. Thank you. Congratulations. Lots to be proud.
Thanks, Joe. Thank you, sir.
Great job with these guys.
All right. Thank you. Madam President, as we are transitioning in the superintendent's report, we did the blue ribbon slide. I apologize that I ignored your initial direction. So at this time, I'd like to invite our scouts up to the front to be recognized by the board officially. So gentlemen, if you'll please join us. So here's what I'd like you to do. Go ahead and go over to the podium. Just tell us your name and which troop you're with and what level scout you are. Is that too much pressure, parents? Okay. Go ahead, sir.
My name is Patty Bazowski. I'm with Troop 155, and I am a Star Scout.
Star.
My name is Logan Farley. I'm with Troop 155, and I'm first class.
Thank you.
I'm Tim Sprouse. I'm with Troop 155, and I'm Star Rank.
Thank you. And boys.
Wait,
Scouts.
gentlemen,
Wait.
Wait. Come on back.
Whoa. You're going to come this way.
It's okay, they're not scary.
So, one topic. Right. Okay. And so Ms. Garcia just asked, what does that mean, Star First Class? As a young man enters into scouting, there's different ranks. So that puts them on the path to being an Eagle Scout.
Well, would you come back when you do that?
And in order to have a rank advancement, certain merit badges need to be achieved
Correct.
to achieve that next rank. And by the time you're an Eagle Scout, you have what, 80 million different merit badges, plus an Eagle Project. Plus, then you don't want to wear your uniform in public anymore. But as I mentioned, I am an Eagle mom, and my Eagle Scout is now 36 years old. And he is a Marine captain, former Marine captain. And one of the things that he has found most valuable in his life is achieving his Eagle Award. So as difficult as it is for moms, and as difficult as it is for you scouts, persevere, because as you get older and you achieve that Eagle rank, it will mean something. It's not just something you go through that your parents say, hey, it's Tuesday night, you got to go to your scout meeting. It will mean a lot later. So with that being said, we can move on. And we're at 8.2, the Mr. Hyde, budget.
Yes, ma'am. At this time, I'd like to ask our Chief Operating Officer, Ms. Susan Harkin, to join us at the podium, and she will work her magic on the school district budget.
So I'm very thrilled to be here in front of you tonight when, we have to present a budget to you, yet we have not had a state budget for a couple of years. But we will comply with what's requested of us, and certainly as our fiduciary responsibility to our taxpayers, present a budget to you. So at this stage, tonight, we are going to give you a reminder of what the FY16-17 budget, and then we'll discuss what our operating fund requests for this year, show you what the budget will look like with those requests, along with some of our assumptions in relationship to trends related to salaries and other expenditures. We'll give you a brief overview of our capital projects fund request, which we've already presented to you, and show you what that looks like. And then speak to all of this as it relates to our overall fund balance policy. We have an overall $276 million budget this year in relationship to revenue and $267 million in expenses. We do project a surplus for this year, but the biggest reason why we're projecting as a surplus is based upon how the current general state aid formula works. We've seen a significant increase in that line item in our revenue stream because of our declining EAV or property values. Underneath the current formula, we expect that to start decreasing. It has gone from $11 million to $41 million in the time frame I've been here, and it's just a function how the state aid formula is. So I have been very cautionary as we develop the budget, with knowing that that's on the horizon for a decline in the future based upon the current budget assumptions, that we have not spent all of those dollars, so that we do not put ourselves in a position that we have to make significant cuts to our budget because of that. Overall, from a budgetary perspective for revenues, we get right now about 66.4% in property taxes. The next biggest portion of our budget is state revenues, which 15% is general state aid and 6.9% is just other categorical state payments for about 22%. Federal revenues at 6.4%. 2.4% of our budget is from the EDA dollars, and 2.9% is from other local revenue. When I got here in 2012, our property taxes at that point in time were about 77%. So again, as a function of the increase in our general state aid, the pie has shifted to be a little bit less for our property taxes. For our budgeted expenditures by fund, we have to calculate and capture all of our spending by various funds. Our biggest portion of our budget by fund is on our education fund, which should make sense and certainly represents where we're putting our dollars.
Could I ask a question on the federal funds? Do they operate on a federal October year?
They do. So what
we're
happens?
assured of what was passed through October of next year.
Right. So what ends up happening, we try to spend the primary portion of it through June 30th to spend it in our fiscal year, but we can turn in expenditures for summer school, specifically for Title I, as a big portion of how those dollars are spent. So we really can voucher expenditures through August 31st with a final payment for September 30th.
So if the federal government approves their budget in October, that affects us the following year?
The following year, yes, correct.
Okay, so we should be good for at least one more school year.
Based upon the preliminary information that we've been getting for our allocations in relationship to any federal funds, we feel confident that we will maintain what we currently have. Now, understand our federal dollars are for supplementary services, we cannot supplant or use it for current provisions that we provide to all of our students. We have taken the position that if there were going to be any significant changes in our federal dollars, we would expect that we would, because of the way the timing works, we would continue to maintain those for a year, and then work with Mr. Hayden, the grants team, and the rest of the teaching and learning team to say for 1 year we maintain it, but then if there's any significant reductions, we'll have to compensate that for a year and make plans in the long run in relationship to that.
There's a lot of chatter out there today about significant cuts to the education budget in the federal level.
Right. And certainly we can, and I've done this in my previous experiences when I've presented the budget to maybe do a separate presentation that talks about how we spend those dollars, and maybe Mr. Hyde, that might be a way to then say, here's currently how we're spending those dollars, so that you understand what's at risk if that happens.
And I think Mr. Stevens, I don't presume to speak for Mr. Stevens, but are you referring to the discussion about the block grants?
No. There was talk when President Trump was going to submit his budget that he's funding the military budget by cutting other departments significantly, and education was one of those that was mentioned.
Yeah, I think the intent was to, we can provide some analysis to the board. I think that's a really good idea, actually, and show the history. We can show the TRS penalty impact and some other factors as well.
I know we always worry about the state. I think we need to start worrying about the federal as well.
I think primarily he was focusing on there is diminishing the role and scope of Department of Ed and minimizing staff. Funding such as IDEA are federally mandated and would require a significant alteration in policy. But we can provide some further analysis.
$17 million in our budget, so it's not an insignificant amount.
No, not for us at all.
Well, I wonder, the one thing I wanted to chime in on, I've always wondered about that, about what they have to fund, because currently, I don't know that a lot of people know that our IDEA is only what, 16%, 13%? So we don't get enough money from the federal government already to cover our expenses. So does that mean that they have that ability to cut that even further? That's what I worry about.
And I would agree with Mr. Stevens that it is $17.6 million of our budget. And certainly those are supports and services that our families and students have come accustomed to having available to them, and it would certainly impact the quality of instruction and programs we're providing. Overall, then, the pie up there shows how much we're spending on our education budget. The next biggest portion that we have that we spend by fund is our debt fund, which represents the bond payment or mortgage payment for the buildings that we've improved or added on. We spend the next biggest portion, 7.4%, to maintain our buildings and our operations, 4.6% for transportation, 2.5% for our IMRF Social Security responsibilities, 1.1% for our capital projects, and 0.7% for our tort or our insurances. If we look at it from the perspective of type of expenditures or objects, 50.3% of our budget is on salaries, 13% or almost 14% is on benefits and insurance, 11.6% for purchase services that represents our food service and our transportation services, supplies 4.1%, capital outlay, and other objects, which represents our tuition payments for outplaced special education students, as well as our charter school tuition payments. For purposes of putting a budget together, we speak to what assumptions. We take the current year budget and we add these assumptions onto the top of it. For purposes right now, we are not factoring in, for what's presented tonight, any of the things that are being chattered about in Springfield. So for this purpose, for our levy in relationship to property taxes, we're assuming a blended rate of 1.4% for CPI and new property of about $53 million. GSA represents what we believe the current formula and how that would trend, and we would expect to see a decrease in general state aid for next year based upon the current formula. All other local, state, and federal revenue are at a 0% increase. Salaries and expenditures in relationship to our negotiated agreements is projected based upon what we have in those agreements. Insurance, we're projecting at a 7% increase. Other objects and tuition for mostly our special education or Cambridge Lakes tuition payment, a 5% increase, and an overall 5% increase to our transportation services. Based upon those assumptions, we would expect to have a total revenue stream of about $248 million, almost 249, and total expenditures of about $247 million, which would leave us with a surplus of about $1.3 million. At the bottom of that screen, of that little chart up there, it shows our ending balances of our fund balance as a percentage of total expenditures, and we'd be at about 38%. Again, this does not factor in any proposed tax freezes, pension shifts, or changes to the general state aid formula, and it certainly doesn't project any delays in relationship to funding from the state. or any proration of current state revenue. And if you saw the latest update out there, they're at about $12 billion at the state level behind in payments. So certainly that could have some concerns for us moving forward. So at this time of year, we come forward with a request for you, and we have taken a very conservative approach this year. What we're asking for is certainly any increases for additional staff to maintain our current class sizes. It has been a priority, as I understand from the board, and our commitment to our teachers that we will maintain that, and we're projecting based upon current enrollment trends that we'll need 8 additional teachers to maintain our current class sizes. We also expect to have an increase that we'll need for our paraprofessionals of about 4 FTE. And the one request that we're bringing forward to you, which we believe is relatively cost neutral, because we do have a fee associated with it, is our one-to-one device rollout for our grades 9 through 12. Again, we're presenting a very small amount of request. We met with the department heads. We met with the principals. They certainly have a lot of needs for our students to ensure that we continue providing them the best education and making sure that they stay on track for career and college ready upon graduation. But certainly we do have concerns that are out there. And what we'd like to do is maybe just table those until we get a clearer indication out of Springfield in relationship to what will happen to our some of these areas that we've spoken about. The next piece, I'm going to go to the next slide, then I'll come back to this. They're out of order right now. This is based upon these budget requests along with the assumptions that we've placed into it. Shows the blue line of where our fund balance would project to. We expect that this year will be our high water mark, and as the general state aid starts to decline for the district based upon the current formula, you see that gap between the red line, which is our projected fund balance target that we've adopted as a board policy, and you see that narrowing. The good news is the blue line is above the red line, and therefore we comply with the fund balance policy. But again, this doesn't factor in any of the conversations that are currently taking place at the state of Illinois. If I go back, this represents then all the requests related to our capital funds. Don't look at that title, it's wrong up there, I apologize. Right now we have about $8 million in our capital fund balance. We expect to get about $450,000 in revenue, and we expect, based upon the projects that we've got, that we still should have a little bit of a fund balance at the end of this year. In relationship to that, the current projects that we have out there for this coming summer that will be part of this budget are certainly the building additions to accommodate the growth at Wright Elementary and Gilbert's Elementary, and then some roofing projects to make sure that we're continuing to maintain our buildings. And these were projects that we've worked closely with our roofing contractor to identify as priority roofs for the district. So if I go back, we'll have about $800,000. The number that's up there right now, also for the building additions, based upon the current estimates from the bids, I think we're going to be below that amount. We have one more set of bids that we've got to bring to you for approval in relationship to flooring, and that certainly might provide some additional dollars, especially as we go through the master facility planning process and making a determination how to prioritize and spend those dollars. So, at this point, just want to highlight what are some of the things that are out there that are at the level that we still need to keep on the horizon, but I think we're in a position that will react once the information becomes final and straightforward. Certainly there is a state budget deficit. They do not have enough revenue coming in based upon the current dollars they've committed. There's a conversation about school funding reform based upon some of our preliminary analysis. We feel like that actually would be something positive for the district based upon our demographics and the way that the current formula is running, so that could negate some of this. Certainly the property tax freeze has some significant impact to us. If it's a permanent freeze, it really has some long-term impacts to it. If it's a 1 or 2 year, it still will have impact because whatever money we lose is gone forever, and it certainly will have some impact to us, but we'll certainly work through those challenges as they come forward to us because we know what that concern is. And certainly the pension cost shift remains out there as well too. So I think that's all in relationship. The next step in this is we will bring a formal draft detailed budget to you for approval in August by the latest to then put on display. We'll work through the Board Finance Committee to work through those details. And then as we get more information out of Springfield, we'll continue to update and bring that information forward to you. But we'll follow the timeline and comply with it and make sure we do what the state tells us we need to do.
I would like to bring to the board's attention that at a future, not currently one scheduled, but at a future finance meeting, we're going to be talking about the reserve amount and whether or not we need to bump it up by about 5%, because we still have to borrow money, which costs us money. And if we bumped it up about 5%, we might not have to, and we're looking at what the impact of that would be on operations. So just know that that discussion has kind of briefly started and will be full-blown at some future Finance Committee meeting and on the agenda.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Harkin?
Based upon some information from our villages, today we're just here to do a brief presentation on tax increment financing and just give you an overview of how this process works and just give you a highlight of the couple of villages that have met with us recently to talk about tax increment financing. So just as a reminder, what is tax increment financing? It's a tool that our villages can use in which property tax revenue derived from future growth or increases in property tax values after a given point in time is used to provide money to villages to get projects done within the area to hopefully develop and create property value within that area. How they're established is that the municipality identifies parcels, and there are 5 of 13 statutory factors for blight that they have to qualify for, as well as 3 of 13 factors for a conservation area. And it's very prescriptive in the state law and statute on how this process works. But in order to move forward with this, they have to have a study done that says this area meets 5 of those 13 criteria and 3 of 13 other criteria. And they also have to determine that without the ability of identifying the TIF, that this property would not develop otherwise. The municipality's role in the TIF process is they create the TIF district, they determine the boundaries, they approve the projects that would be funded through the dollars in increment that's generated, they set the term or maximum life of that TIF, and then they have to convene a local taxing body's joint review board, in which that means anybody that is the tax dollars that are generated in that area need to be present to get an overview of that TIF and ask questions and ensure that they're following the statutory guidelines in relationship to all that. Concerns can be raised, they're to address them, and we vote in advisory capacity on the TIF plan. If there is a majority approval, then the approval at the municipality is just a normal approval process. If it is not approved by the Joint Review Board, it has to be a supermajority approved at the municipality level. Our role in the establishment of the process is we are invited to the Joint Review Board, and we do have a position on that committee level. We do weigh in and evaluate and ensure that the eligibility in relationship to the factors that qualify it truly are eligible areas. One of the biggest challenges right now in a TIF is declining EAV as one of the criteria. You could basically TIF every property in the whole Kane County and McHenry area based upon that one qualifying factor. So certainly there's already a process that because we've been in this declining EAV, that many of them are eligible just based upon that. We can certainly discuss the length of the TIF, talk about the budget, discuss if there's surpluses, how those surpluses would be distributed, make sure that there's conversations about expanding the TIF, talk about projects that would be covered if they meet and more dollars get generated, and certainly discuss if there's appeals to the property values within that TIF district. If you recall, our position in the past was what we voted down, and we said no to all of the TIFs. Recently, we've tried to work with our villages to mitigate the impact of a TIF to our school district and try to work with them in relationship to how do they meet their needs and how do we meet our needs? And certainly if we don't have a process to stop them from doing it, trying to work collaboratively with them to minimize the impact to the school district. So what we work to do is get an IGA or an intergovernmental agreement that really speaks to some of the things that I believe has been interest of the board. Some of those things include not having a TIF last for 23 years. If there's a budget, make sure that that budget is reasonable and not excessive. If there are surpluses that are generated, is there a way to distribute that funds to the taxing bodies? Limit the expansion of that TIF. And if there's costs associated that it potentially generates students, make sure that there's funding that supports provided to the district in order to support those students. We also can ask for capital costs that will help if there's any other incidental costs related to that project going in. Costs for job training, retraining, and certainly a commit to make whole payments in the event that the community approves a district referendum, and therefore there might be some impact to us if that were to occur. And again, it's a limit the assessment appeals in order to make sure that the increment is preserved, and we work with the district to do that. Most recently, we worked with the Village of Algonquin very successfully and the Village of West Dundee to come up with intergovernmental agreements that had some revenue sharing, that spoke to closing the TIF off early, that spoke to giving dollars as students were generated, and I believe those were some things I'm very proud of that we were able to negotiate, that certainly while we would prefer to not have TIFs, that it certainly provides and protects our interests through the process. If you recall, there's 22 TIFs right now in the district and EDAs. There's $300 million worth of incremental EAV that are represented in all these TIFs, which is approximately $19 million of dollars that are on the tax bills on behalf of District 300 that are being given to our local municipalities based upon what's provided in that chart up there. For us, for the Hoffman Estates, we are getting $6.3 million from the current EDA structure through the active participation of our board in that negotiation process. So really we're down to about $13 million as being directed from the tax bills to these various towns and villages to support the TIFs that they have. Good news for us that's coming up. There's one of Huntley that's coming off the books this year. That's part of the $53 million in new revenue, which approximately brings about $500,000. If you recall as well, too, one of the other very successful things that we've done recently is the construction of the Weber warehousing, of which we abated their taxes for 5 years, and that those dollars will be coming on, and that has raised about $500,000. When it rolls off, we'll get a full $1 million. Again, I think we can be very proud of some of those negotiations, working with our villages in that process for the district's benefit. So monitoring of TIFs, annually there's to be a joint review board meeting, and at that time it is our role, and I go to those meetings to review any surplus balances, talk about how the TIF is progressing, talk about the overall health of the TIF, and just make sure that we've got a voice and we're keeping an eye on what's occurring within those TIFs. So again, why we're here tonight, the Village of West Dundee is currently proposing a TIF. It's kind of hard to see, but it's south of 72, east of 31. It's considered the old Hager properties. It's certainly been talked about for a while. We've gotten a preliminary report in relationship to why this qualifies as a TIF. It might be my desire that we have our attorneys review it to make sure what they're proposing, that it qualifies for a TIF, that we evaluate that and ensure that it truly meets those criteria. That's important to us. And then certainly, it is my understanding that there's some residential parcels that will be placed in there. In the past, I don't believe we've had any residential TIFs, and that certainly is a new direction that's happening within the TIF world. But there also are provisions in the new TIF laws that says we do get dollars on an annual basis directed towards the district as specific payments out of the increment that we get if students are generated in that location. And we would have to track that to ensure that that occurs. There also is a proposed TIF at the Village of Hoffman Estates, north of 72 and west of 59. This is a very heavily residential TIF. Again, we will proceed with the same process as ensuring that it definitely qualifies for a TIF underneath the state guidelines. And certainly we will do whatever we can to mitigate the impact, specifically when it's students and on the furthest portion of our school district and significant amounts of students projected to be generated out of there, that we're cautious and we enter this from a protection perspective of the district, but also knowing our responsibility of having to provide services to those students when they are in our district. So our next steps is, at this point, specifically for this TIF, is on April 3rd, their village is going to be voting on this. We've already attended 2 meetings in relationship to this. They had their first joint review board meeting last week. The next joint review meeting is scheduled for March 3rd. We did have another conversation with the village on this parcel of property. It is not all of our TIF. Part of this parcel is also shared by Barrington School District 220. We are working with them in that process. And certainly we will do what we can and we'll stay on top of it. We'd have a couple board members that have attended the meeting as well too and are being kept abreast of what's going on in relationship to all this. But it would be my hope, based upon what we've outlined for you on what we'd like to see in an IGA and how we protect the school district's interests, that we'll work with them hopefully in a collaborative way like we have with the Village of Algonquin and some of our other local taxing bodies.
One quick question. I just want to clarify that even though it's beneficial to both the district and the village for us to work together, they don't necessarily have to listen to us?
I can tell you that the preliminary information, you take people on their face value. It's been my understanding in both of these situations that they do want to work with the school district. However, it is very important for us to have it documented in a solid intergovernmental agreement before we would be in a position that I would support anything, and that was certainly what we've done with the other villages. So while, yes, we're hopeful, that piece of paper is what we need in order to ensure that there's a roadmap in the future to protect the school district.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Harkin. At this time, I'd like to ask Ms. Kristen Corvo, Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum Instruction, to join us at the podium. She's going to provide the board an update, a very brief update about the science adoption. As the board may recall, in our last meeting, there were a couple areas that were not completed at that time. So she's here to provide an update.
All right. Good evening. I'm pleased to be before you with these additional recommendations. So again, these recommendations are part of our overall strategic plan work to update our instructional materials. Our process involves several layers, starting with a central office review. It then moves on to a teacher review, and we look at vendor pricing as well as additional administrative review after we receive feedback from teachers. So this evening we have 2 recommendations, one for 9-12 science and one for 6-8 science. At the last meeting, we did not have these 2 pieces finalized. So for 9-12 science, for biology and for physical science, we are recommending discovery science. Physical science would actually encompass both their chemistry and physics materials. These are online materials, so once we have the licenses for these, we would then have access to any of the books within that suite of materials. So it provides us a lot of flexibility, and these materials also align with the next generation science standards. The other recommendation is for middle school, grades 6 through 8, also discovery education. This is also based upon their alignment to next generation science standards. And one thing that we're very excited about is that this would also provide some cohesion between our 6-8 science and our high school science. So this is something that we haven't necessarily had in the past, that just, based on teacher feedback and all of the input, that's where it puts us. So that is our recommendation this evening. So we will be placing these materials on display for the next 30 days, and we would ask for your approval again at the April 11th board meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, board members, it's quite timely considering the topic on social media today. Providing you with an update as far as our immigration status. We have, as I reminded the board, we have an existing policy in place as it relates to law enforcement and or federal agents having access to students on campus and what those requirements are. We have reiterated those, outlined them. We also received a recent update from Francis Radlett as far as the state's policies and procedures to make sure that we're in alignment with those. Again, we have provided those outlines, those procedures. I outlined those for you in a memo, but those have also been shared with all building principals, deans, assistant principals, school counselors, and secretaries to make sure that everyone is well informed as to what the procedures are and whom to notify if someone shows up requesting access to a student. Once again, this applies not only to an immigration issue, but it applies to also law enforcement when they're seeking to question a student and or may have a subpoena or other legal document. So that's one aspect to this. As you know, as you may recall, several months ago we began a process. I've been working very closely with Trish Whitecotton, also with some of our community partners, Centro de Información, and also with the Elgin Parents Hispanic Network. Many of us have been focusing on providing information to our families. Many of our families who may have concerns about either themselves or a family member who may be currently undocumented, and they have many concerns about their immigration status and what these changes in federal policies may or may not have or what implications they may bring. So community meetings have been being held. As an extension of that, we're hearing more and more concerns from students. And once again, community meetings, part of our concern is that they're not widely attended. Why? Because, again, there's a fear that if I attend this may be an opportunity for me to be detained. As a result, and also an acknowledgement, there's actually a pretty solid research base behind this. Quite frequently, students are asked if they're from a non-English speaking household to serve as translators for their families. Oftentimes, that translation is not just a specific translation of a conversation relating to a school issue or event, but also sometimes it's related to them having to interpret policy. Students are oftentimes brought into the discussion about mortgages and having to fill out documents, having to shop with parents to make sure that they can ask and address questions. Knowing that that's part of the issue and hearing from our schools about the impact that this topic is having on our students. Again, by and large, just the relative uncertainty. What does the federal law mean? What do these changes mean? We are, as we shared, going to provide school-based access to certified attorneys. This is not a legal advice. That seems to be a point of contention today. We are not offering legal advice. We're not offering advice, nor are we taking a political stance. We are providing clarification to students, meaning if I'm protected, what happens if a family member is deported? What's the timeline? What's the process? Those types of things. The group that we're using, to be completely transparent, does not represent families or individuals. They represent larger municipalities and organizations such as ours. They are an employee service firm. They work very closely at the federal level to interpret federal policy. The board is very familiar with this. I'm stating this more for the record, that by and large, part of the services that Francis Radlett provides for us is not only support in cases of litigation, but also support in our interpretation of federal policy as it relates to IDEA, Title I, Title IX, and other federal grants and areas. They provide annual training and support to our own chief legal counsel, but also to Ms. Nackey and others through their supports and services as well. So it's a good partnership. They are providing this to us at no cost. I'm going to state that again for the record. There are no costs associated with these opportunities. So both the evening events for parents will be published. But we did notice parents today about the upcoming school-based opportunities. Again, they're voluntary. It's really only intended to provide an opportunity for students who may be directly or indirectly affected by this to seek some guidance. Or to get some information so that they in turn can go home and share that information with their families. It is not, again, legal advice, and I think it's important to clarify that. And while there seems to be some contention in the general public as far as why is the school or why is the district addressing this, I'm left scratching my head at times and asking the question, we address everything from substance abuse to psychological support, bullying support, and other intervention services throughout the school day, and we don't perceive those to be disruptions of the academic environment, and yet this is a service that is very much needed and very timely. Although I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge that there is a political conflict here perceived by many. Our goal, our mission is to continuously support our students. And I will address the issue one last time as, well, why are we doing these things in small groups and why can't we just hold assemblies? Well, by and large, with no disrespect to anyone involved, assemblies do not gather attention or engage students, nor does it lead to a change of behavior or understanding. By and large, assemblies are one-directional. There is no dialogue. There's no exchange of ideas. There's no ability to ask questions. And again, in large group settings, by and large, the level of overall true engagement can be minimal. We choose instead to use existing coursework and curriculum to address these issues. I think our D300 Speaks Up activities right now clearly speak to that, where we've rolled out some additional lessons on empathy and other concerns that were addressed well before this immigration issue, and we're doing those through middle school social studies classes, and we're doing those through high school-based ELA classes. Why? Those teachers are well prepared and have a history of having to engage students in dialogue that otherwise could erode into debate and would not be constructive. So again, in a small group setting where students feel protected and secured, they can engage in these types of dialogue. We're approaching this from the same avenue. There is no violation of law. This is very much just our sincere approach to providing support to all of our students, especially a group that otherwise may feel ignored and not have access to information that they desperately feel they need. So that's my update on immigration and other topics. If there's any questions from the board, I'll be willing to address
Mrs.
those.
Burley?
Thank you for being proactive with this. This is so important. We have such a diverse community, and this is so important. And you're right. It's the same as bullying awareness and transgender and everything else that we're dealing with. And I got lost after 600 comments on social media. So I don't know if you went on there and said anything or if anybody did, but, you know, I've had a few questions myself. People come to me with questions, but they were more positive in nature. So just so you know, not
Thank you.
everybody is negative.
Ms. Garcia?
Schools are a place for students and the community to get information. I applaud your forethought, your foresight, whatever it was that led to this, because I don't want kids having questions that they can't get answers to. That's what school's for. It just is. I mean, it's been that way, maybe not all of time, and I'm certainly no educational scholar, but this is what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be giving the students in our community access to the information that they need. You've identified information that they need, and I will stand up behind you. I will stand up to anyone who would like to talk about it further. I will shut down the debate, because this is why we are here. We are here to provide information to our students. It's the budget's about. It's why we all come here. Information to our students. So I am very proud of us. I'm proud of you, and by extension, us.
Thank you.
It's also a place for kids to feel safe, and I'm absolutely 100% behind your action.
Thank you.
Okay.
That being said, let me raise the temperament of the room here a little bit. This is not in the superintendent's report because it is somewhat of a surprise, but I am going to ask an individual to come forward and be recognized. This is their last board meeting with us. We have had the pleasure, the board is very much aware of this individual, so no surprises.
He just walked out.
Can we tackle him? Bring him back in here. Kenny Rogers' twin brother.
No, we actually had Kenny Rogers' twin brother here before.
But that was
the finance guy.
But that was the Kenny Rogers before the plastic
Okay.
surgery.
Right.
So, Mr. Dirk, I'd ask you to come forward, please, at least to join us at the podium or come stand up here. Board members, as you know, I provided you information that Mr. Dirk, his family is relocated, and he will be relocating as a result. I have had the absolute pleasure of working with Kerry. He is incredibly responsive. I don't care what time I text him. I don't care how crazy my texts or emails are to him, asking questions about plumbing and sewage lines and electrical conduit. I've been on site with him. He doesn't leave a project. When Hampshire Middle School had their power outage because about a 3-foot section of the main feed coming into the school completely deteriorated and disappeared, he stayed on site. He manages projects well. So, Kerry, from me to you, a sincere thank you. I could not ask for a better person to support us as Chuck transitioned out. You will be sorely missed. And know that D300 is always your home should you change your mind and choose to relocate back to this area. But I wanted to say a sincere thank you from me to you and from staff to you. And we wanted to recognize you knowing that in a public setting like this with the board present, knowing that this would be your last meeting. So thank you for all that you've done for D300.
If I might, let me tell you how much I appreciate those 3 o'clock morning phone calls from Mr. Hyde. It's been wonderful, really. I would just like to say thank you to the board for the opportunity, to Mr. Hyde, Susan Harkin, and the staff here. It's refreshing to work with really intelligent people that want to move the ball forward, open to ideas, and just positive. A lot of positive feedback. Staff couldn't ask for a better staff to work with. I mean, it's incredible. People I work for and people work for me, building and grounds guys are incredible. So I just thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
You were so helpful. Yeah. I started introducing Carrie at the food pantry on Tuesday mornings as the new Chuck. But I just want to mention how absolutely amazing and helpful he was getting us through a few little glitches. He was always right there. What can I do? What can I do to help? And I can't believe you're leaving now. I'm like so upset, but good luck.
Madam President, members of the board, members of the community, and staff, thank you again for being here this evening. That concludes the superintendent's report.
No other good news? That wasn't really good news that you
comes
were
later.
reading.
Is it in next? I'm sorry. I apologize. We have several pages of good news. I misread.
Can I say something about him quick? I didn't know he was leaving tonight. I know that's unordinary.
Well, he's not leaving tonight, but yes, you can say something publicly.
Madam President,
Madam President, as some.
I don't know. It's Mr. Williamson, but.
Just wait, Ann. Just wait. I just wanted to say really quickly, I've known Kerry Kenny Rogers, since he was at Dundee Crown, and one of the things that Kerry does is he does a really good job and then he leaves that job so that we're all annoyed at him. And so, I watched him leave Dundee Crown when we were all happy with him. Now he's leaving here when we're all happy with him. And I wanted to thank him not just from myself, but from all of the 1,500 plus people that I represent, although Iberto keeps trying to make that number smaller. But all of the 1,500 plus people that I represent, the spaces where education happens in this district happen because of Kerry and some of the other people that work for him. We can't do our jobs if that individual and those individuals whom he directs aren't the phenomenal educators that they are. And often when I refer to other individuals besides teachers, I refer to them as educators. It's important that we understand that the person who makes the space an educational space is also, in effect, an educator. Kerry, thank you for making our spaces what you have for all the time you've been here. It means a great deal to all of us, and you will be sorely missed.
Thank you, Mr. Williamson.
Mr. Chester has done a great job of living in a different state from his wife while he worked here. Just saying, it has been possible.
Moving on to District 300 good news. State qualifiers are first. We do recognize athletes, as you know, each semester, but I'd like to share that we have a large number of state qualifiers for the winter athletic season. But I'd like to first begin by saying that Hampshire High School won this evening. Boys basketball team did win. They move on. I have not received an update yet from Hampshire High School as far as their game tonight against Boylan. So hopefully I get that update before we leave. But I'd like to congratulate our final District 300 athletes who qualified for the IHSA three-point showdown, including Nicole Drubin from Jacobs High School, Rachel Dumlin, and Megan Hine from Hampshire High School. These are the finalists moving on. We had a longer list. All these students will be recognized for their contributions. And I would be remiss if I did not do a shout out for Jamie Randall's daughter, Cassidy Randall, who was also a finalist up until this last stage. Next, I'd also like to congratulate our state qualifying wrestlers, Powell Barnes and Max Goen from Hampshire High School, Bo Harrier and Jake Harrier from Jacobs High School, and Chase Rapp from Dundee Crown High School. Finally, I'm also pleased to announce that District 300 has 3 teams competing in the IHSA state competitions. Congratulations to the Jacobs cheerleading team, the Hampshire cheerleading team, and the Jacobs dance teams. The district is extremely excited for all of our out-of-state bound athletes. We will closely follow all of their competitions and will be providing the board with the community with updates as to their progress. Dundee Crown High School recently held their college and career fair, providing students from all District 3 high schools the opportunity to meet with representatives from over 100 colleges and careers. As the board and community are aware, District 300's central mission is to ensure all of our students are college or career ready upon graduation. This event provided our students with an opportunity to engage in open dialogue with many phenomenal higher learning institutions, including Ball State University, DePaul, ECC, Indiana State University, Iowa State University, Loyola University, Northern Illinois University, Purdue University, Southern Illinois University, University of Illinois Chicago, and the University of Notre Dame, as well as Mr. Fiorentino, South Carolina. I'd like to personally again thank the board members for their attendance and support for this event. I know that Mr. Fiorentino took a moment to share with me a story that there was a young lady who had returned this year to the same table, truly excited about her opportunities and her future because she didn't really have that foresight a year ago when she initially attended. So it's good to see the program grow and continue to have an impact on our students. And congratulations to the staff who really work hard to coordinate that event and schedule all of those people to be in attendance as well. Men of distinction had the opportunity to meet Nelson Mandela's grandson recently. So last week, members of Dundee Crown's Men of Distinction program had an opportunity to watch Nelson Mandela's grandson, Nadiba Mandela, speak at Crystal Lake South High School. During the presentation, Mr. Mandela shared what it was like to grow up with Nelson Mandela as his grandfather and communicated to students that every single person has the ability to accomplish great things regardless of their background or where they come from. At the conclusion of the speech, students had an opportunity to take a picture with him, and they were truly excited, as you can see. And one of those students looks familiar because he was here this evening.
I think 2 of them.
Yes,
They're both there.
Fabulous. And then also recent success for our drafting program. So congratulations to Hampshire High School's drafting students who achieved success at last week's Illinois Drafting Educators Association competition. I'd like to offer special recognition to the following students: Reed Sabata, who earned first place, Logan Nesper, who earned second place, and Matt Marchini, who earned third place. Congratulations to these students and to their teacher. Kindergarten Roundup sessions. Over the last week and a half, District 300 has hosted several Kindergarten Roundup information meetings to provide new District 300 families insight to the kindergarten experience, including overviews of a typical day from the academic, social, and emotional perspectives. The final meeting is being held tonight, hence the fact that Dr. Doran is not with us this evening, and tonight's meeting is at Dundee Middle School. If you notice, it's interesting, we actually put these pictures in their natural progression. The first meeting was at Algonquin Middle School, the second one was at Westfield, third one was at Hampshire, and you can see the crowds just continue to grow. I was personally at the Westfield event last week, and we could not find enough chairs, quite honestly. The room was just full to capacity, so outstanding job to staff. I'd like to also thank Mr. McGinn. Part of our communication strategy for this was not just to rely solely on our website and other social media, but to engage other media outlets, and he did a fantastic job, and we were able to get stories in several papers, providing reminders to parents. And because it can be, if you're a first-timer in our district, you may not have a touch point with the school district. How do you let them know that these things are happening, even if they're looking for the information? So thank you to Mr. McGinn and his staff for doing that. And that concludes the good news for this evening, because I have not received an update for Hampshire unless somebody else has. Jacobs won.
By 20.
Wow. So I'm going to add one little tag onto your good news, because as I sat here and listened to Mrs. Burley and Mr. Stevens and Ms. Garcia, one of the things that strikes me that we may or may not say enough is the good news in this district is we've got a great board. We've got a board that Ms. Garcia, what more do you say after a comment like that? Nothing more to be said. And so I think the good news is that we have board members that are very in tune to our district and are very focused on what is best for our students and having our students' best interests at heart. So I don't think we give ourselves enough credit, and I am very pleased and honored to be working with board members that are independent thinking and have focus on what's best for our students. So. All right, moving on. We had no public participation sign up. Any legislative updates? I suppose we could be listening to the president's speech and getting some legislative update tonight from him.
Well, okay, well, I will make mine brief. Basically, federal-wise, who knows right now? I don't know. You know, there's been a lot of talk about IDEA and a lot of shakeup with education funding. Nothing really has happened yet, but we're keeping a close eye on it, and I know Shelley is. So is Fred. So no news is good news, I guess, at this point, kind of. On the state level, you know, you guys have all heard about the grand bargain. It was shot down previously, but it's not dead. That's the whole budget debate. And portion of that, the grand bargain is made up of a series of 13 bills. Some of those have a potential impact on education and of course District 300, good or bad. The most important one for us to really focus on probably is the property tax freeze, which is Senate Bill 13. I spoke with Mr. Hyde earlier today about the type of impact that would have to our district, because we need to know this has a serious impact on our district financially, to the tune of, over the next 5 years, depending on how long this property tax freeze would be. If it was a 5-year property tax freeze, we would lose over $30 million, $31.3 million is the projected loss that we would lose over 5 years. If it's 2 years, we're still at $12.4 million. And even if it's a 1-year property tax freeze, which is unlikely, they would probably go for a longer one, we're looking at $7.5 million. That's a big hit for us. In the current climate in Springfield, when we're looking at different pension cost shifts and things like that, we can't, you know, something like this is really serious. So what I would like to ask is for all of us, audience, all of us board members, administrators, contact our Senate, contact our senators, Senator McConaughey, Senator McConchie, and let them know that we can't, I mean, there has to be some give and take. If they're going to take this away, they have to give back in another way, and the money is not there right now. So, Fred, is there anything you wanted to chime in on that?
So we had the opportunity to meet with Senator Castro and Representative Pritchard in the last week and a half to ask a lot of the same questions about where are we at with the budget process, where are we stalled, where are we not making progress, where are we making progress, and to continue our advocacy for the elimination or at least reduction of the TRS penalty. We are just not hearing about a lot of movement. I think there are two sides that are deeply entrenched currently, and so we just kind of wait to see what's happening. I think you did a very good job of addressing the potential impact that even a short-term property tax freeze would have on our district. That, coupled with other factors, clearly creates some level of concern. I think the benefit we have as a district is we've operated with a high level of fiduciary responsibility, and we're in a really good place for the short term. Long term, these things become truly impactful as we look at compounding issues such as the addition of more TIFs and the loss of those types of funds. I mean, we continue to grow as far as our enrollment, but I think we need to be cognizant that a lot of the really innovative initiatives and things that we've put in place over the last few years, we always have a focus on sustainability, and so that's our focus moving forward at this point. So I'd like to say I have more information. I know that there was some discussion today about income tax, but we haven't heard anything definitively come out of either side. Susan's organization does a fantastic job in keeping us up to speed. And both this topic as well as TIFs will be the topic at our next Community Leadership Academy as well. So we look forward to doing that and sharing that information with our stakeholders at large. I was really pleased that after last meeting, several parents approached us asking how do they become more legislatively engaged. And I think that that's a unique opportunity for two of our board members who truly have a passion in those areas to come forward. So I think Ms. Burley, Mr. Fiorentino, might be a good opportunity for us to introduce you to the group and have you share some information as well. And we'll move forward from there. So.
Okay. All right, moving on. Item 11, consent items less than 25,000. Motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
Mr. Alessio?
Garcia.
Aye.
Fiorentino.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Stevens. Aye. Burley.
Aye.
Alessio, aye. Lopez. Motion passes 7-0.
Item number 12, consent items greater than 25,000. Motion to approve.
Second. Is Stevens?
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Alessio, aye. Lopez.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Fiorentino.
Aye.
Burley.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Okay. I got some words to read here. Item 13.1, employee discipline case number 5. Resolution of the Board of Education of Community Unit School District 300 authorizing suspension. Whereas the Board of Education of Community Unit School District 300 has received a recommendation from the administration regarding the performance and conduct of Daniel J. Marquis, number 92042, a LEAD lead employee, previously discussed in closed session. And whereas this Board of Education herewith finds and determines that evidence shows that Mr. Marquis acted in an unprofessional and inappropriate manner. Whereas the Board of Education finds that the suspension of Mr. Marquis is in the best interests of the district. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Education of Community Unit School District 300. 1. Mr. Marquis is hereby retroactively suspended without pay for 2 days on Monday, February 13th, 2017, and Tuesday, February 14th, 2017. Motion for approval.
Second.
Garcia.
Aye.
Fiorentino.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Burley.
Aye.
Alessio, aye. Lopez.
Aye.
Stevens.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Okay, item 13.2, student discipline case number 2. Motion to expel student number 2 for the remainder of the 2016-2017 school year and for the entire 2017-2018 school year, with the ability to return to the district and be administratively placed at the start of the 2018-2019 school year for the violation of District 300 Board Policy 7:190, possession or use of a firearm or weapon while on school property that caused serious disruption to the educational environment, inappropriate off-campus behavior that resulted in a disruption to the school, and violation of a disciplinary warning. Motion second.
Second.
Stevens.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Alessio, aye. Burley.
Aye.
Fiorentino.
Aye.
Lopez.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Item 13.3, motion to this is student discipline case number 3. Motion to expel student 3 for the remainder of the 2016-2017 school year and the entire 2017-2018 school year, with the ability to return to the district and be administratively placed at the start of the 2018-2019 school year for the violation of District 300 Board Policy 7:190, possession or use of a firearm or weapon while on school property that caused serious disruption to the educational environment, and inappropriate off-campus behavior that resulted in a disruption to the school. Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second. Mr. Alessio?
Garcia.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Stevens.
Aye.
Fiorentino.
Aye.
Lopez.
Aye.
Burley.
Aye.
Alessio, aye. Motion passes 7-0.
Okay, item 14.11, Board Finance Committee. We had minutes, but any other comments on
We have
finance?
new meetings scheduled for next week. Same with construction.
Any other board committee discussion items? Okay, motion to go into closed session for the purpose of discussing the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body, student discipline, collective bargaining, and litigation.
Mrs. Miller, can I interrupt for just a second? I'm sorry. We don't really have a place in here for like board good news, and I was trying to kind
Well, that would kind of be under item number 6, board announcements.
Oh, I must have missed that one.
A bad spot.
Okay.
That one.
Yeah. Can I just real quick, just 1 minute, 1 minute. I just wanted to, I just wanted to thank Dundee Crown High School and Devon LaRosa inviting the board to the second annual Black History Month breakfast. It was really impressive. They had some great singing. They had some great dancing. They had an awesome speaker. It was really cool. I wish it was better attended. But it's only the second one, so hopefully next year, but it was really good. And real quick also, Dundee Highlands, they also invited me to their Learning in a Winter Wonderland, which was really cool because the one-on-one devices with these PowerPoints that these kids put together in the different formats, they were very impressive. So I just wanted to kind of kudos.
Did we have a motion already?
Yes, Mr. Stevens.
Mr. Stevens, do we need a second? No, we need a second. Okay, call the roll, please. Mr. Fiorentino, a second.
Oh, okay. Let's see, Stevens. Aye. Fiorentino. Aye. Alessio, aye. Burley.
Aye.
Garcia.
Yeah.
Miller.
Aye.
Lopez. Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. And there's not going to be any action to follow our closed session.
Okay, this goes in somewhere.